Someone is targeting us with a SAM.
I'll find you and pick you up, Mr. President!
Who are you?
The President of the United States.
Welcome to Finland.
36 minutes ago, we got an evac distress signal from Air Force One.
I'll deliver to the President. You will wire the money as planned.
Where is he?
Find the President, bring him home. Someone helped him.
Men who shot me down, they're hunting me.
I got him. First, you gotta cock it.
Please accept my apologies.
This is not a good idea! We're gonna die!
I've been betrayed today, locked in a freezer, ejected from the same plane twice. Yeah, I'm doing quite well.
You gotta cock it, mother.
All right.
Is that my coffee?
No, I think that's your coffee right there. Yeah, seems, hold on. No, that's water. That's water.
Oh, wow. They gave me the best cup of coffee I've ever had. I've never done this. This is so cool.
Gave me water.
Or had coffee.
Victor, thanks so much for being here. Big game.
you.
You play the vice president in this movie, right? And you share a kind of control room with some pretty phenomenal actors. You have Jim Broadbent, you have Felicity Huffman, you have Ted Levine.
Yes.
What was that like for you? Was that sort of something that got you involved? You're like, I'm going to be with these three? Let's go.
Yeah, actually, it did help. I'm such a... I've known Felicity peripherally. We've never worked together, and I've always loved her. But Jim Broadbent, I was in awe of. Everything I've ever seen him in, I think that as one of the best actors I've ever seen. So when they said that he was going to be there, I said, I'll be there.
I mean, I think if you're an actor and you don't know of Mike Leigh films, you're not necessarily living or experiencing life as an actor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, was it Life is Sweet? Was that the first one I think I saw?
Yeah.
And of course, you'll remember the titles because I don't remember anything.
Topsy-Turvy.
Yes, Topsy-Turvy.
But
That was
Life
the one.
is Sweet is really one of
That
the
was
incredible
the
films.
first one that I said I am hooked. Anyway, he's great. We had a lot of fun. It was. I want to look at you because you come all this way, and I'll look back and forth.
Look at them.
We were all our scenes took place in that room, so we were never in that helicopter on those mountaintops. So when I saw the movie, I thought, well, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
That's that. I'd like to be there. But we were not. We were in a little studio in Munich, of all places, and
In Munich?
Yes.
Because the director is he Finnish? Yes.
Yeah, Halmari Hollander, and I'd never worked with him. I didn't know his work, but he was great, and we just had a lot of fun. We really did have fun.
Some of you might know his work. He made a film called Rare Exports a couple years ago. That's a really great cult film, and it makes sense that he would jump on and do something like this. So when you're doing scenes like this in a war room, you have no idea. You know that there's going to be all these helicopter action sequences in the film, but
Right.
you're not going to see any of them. Does that make you worried at all about the finished product? What's going to happen with the movie?
Well, like everything you do as an actor, you never know what it's going to be when it's done, because you're in a studio with a bunch of people, and you have a sense of if it's, first of all, you read the script, so you know what they're attempting to do, but how it's all going to work or how they're going to pull it off, you just don't know. And this was when I finally saw this movie, I thought I was impressed by how he did it all.
Yeah, he does a lot on what I think is probably a somewhat minimal budget for all of the action sequences that he really pulls off in this.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. I mean, I just was in an independent film that I finally saw, which seems like it was like a year and a half ago we filmed it, and I finally saw it the other night, and I couldn't believe what these people did with it. It's called Consumed. I'm going to plug it. It's about a genetically modified food, and it's remarkable what they did with no money. I'm astonished.
When you get into a room, I mean, because you're not going to be doing big action sequences for this, so your thrill is getting to work with these actors that we talked about. When you get into a room with them, are you good at not sort of fanboy? I mean, if I met Jim Broadbent, I would very immediately be like, I loved you in this, I loved your work, I can't imagine, like...
I usually wait till the first cocktail. Or dinner, which is, by the way, all Felicity and I did while we were there was talk about where we were eating and what we were going to eat. And Jim, and then we had a dinner with Jim a couple of times with his wife, and really in about 15 minutes, you kind of know if you're going to click with somebody, even sometimes faster than that. And it was just an immediate love fest. Because I'm always looking for that first sense of irony and humor, because I'd like to have a good time and I like to laugh. And it's
such an exasperating thing when you get around a group of people and one person doesn't have that and you're just considered, it was a joke, come on.
Yeah, please. Yeah, if you have to say it's a joke, get out. Just get out. So no, that was, and I knew Felicity would, because I knew her. So we had a great time.
And you guys also have Ted Levine's voice in the background the whole time, which is I don't know if you guys heard it in the trailer, Ted Levine is Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. It's that great Porter in the World voice. Sorry for the impression.
That's pretty good.
Is that good?
That's pretty good.
Should I keep going?
I actually didn't know who it was, but now that you said it, you don't. Yeah, he was cool. He was. I mean, it was. We did it relatively quickly. It was like I think we shot for like 6 days or 7 days, and which you can get a lot done. Except in certain movies it takes 6 days to shoot one scene. Right. But it was expedient, and so that makes it more pleasurable too.
Now, you've been on movies where it's taken 6 days to shoot one scene. Titanic, for instance.
Exactly.
How long did it take you to shoot one? What was the longest you spent on one scene in that movie?
There was a dinner scene. I think it was the first full dinner scene where all the principal actors were at one table. I feel like it took a month, and I think it did. I mean, I was there. That role that I played in Titanic could have been shot. Well, nowadays, I mean, it would have been shot in like 5 days. I was there for 6 months, shooting. Yeah, I mean, so I obviously didn't work every day, or sometimes for days at a time, because we were called onto the set. We all had to be there dressed in makeup and costume, and we waited in case they got to us. It was something.
And I've heard, I interviewed Robert Patrick about working with James Cameron on Terminator 2, and he had said that there was a scene where he was running towards the car, and to call action, James Cameron fired a shotgun at him.
Wow.
Like, that's how intense, I mean, a shotgun with blanks, but like, that's how intense it is working with Cameron, that he does not let up.
No, he does not let up. And here's the thing, I love James Cameron, and I actually loved working with him. Because he just expected everyone to have as much interest and passion in the project as he did, which is impossible because he's the director, the creator, and you're just a hired hand, essentially. So I made a point of really being on target and knowing, because I would do anything to avoid being yelled at. I'm such a people pleaser, as you might have gathered, and so I just really made sure that I was everywhere. I anticipated his every move, and also the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that he is actually a great director. I mean, with actors, he in that one scene where basically is the big scene I have where I'm telling them, I'm explaining what's happening and how we're going to go down and all of that. And he guided me through that without being, he didn't. It was not bullying. He just guided me through every moment so beautifully, and I felt really comfortable, and I was happy with that scene.
Where did you shoot that scene along the 6 months that you were there?
Oh, that's a really hard question to remember.
Well, it's just kind of interesting because it's kind of like, does he have you there for 6 months, keep you to this point where you get exhausted and then put you in this moment in the movie where your character has to be feeling that? Or was it like
I don't
first
think,
day?
I don't think that's intentional. I think all of that is just scheduling. Right. He doesn't. I don't think he really thinks about that. It's not like he's working on. He's got a plan to wear you down. He was. It was like midway through, but you rarely shoot in sequence on a film. I'm sure you all know that. So there were, I think I shot one scene really early where I had to look up and the boat was the ship. I was never to call it a boat. Every time I did, I was yelled at. It's a ship.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Every time I'd say, well, James, when the boat, it's not a boat, it's a ship. Okay, it's a ship.
So James is one of those guys with no sense of irony that you don't want.
No, he does have a great. I honestly, he does. But he's serious.
Yeah,
he's serious, and that's why the movie was as good as it was.
And now he wasn't James Cameron, the James Cameron that we know now, really before Titanic. I mean, he had Terminator 2, The Abyss, these really great, innovative, blockbuster action sci-fi films. But Titanic was the one that really set him over to the point where anybody would go work with James Cameron on anything that he did. So when you're at this thing for 6 months, and I remember talking to other people, and they're like in a water tank for a month, and they can't see the CGI. At this point, no one is using CGI as much as they are now, so no one's really used to working with green screens as much. What were thoughts going through your head, being there for 6 months and having to go through this?
Well, we couldn't imagine that this was going to work. Really. It was like that this was, it looked, the set, they built this ship, and then that was on this dock that on pulleys that went up, and then the like the dining room and everything that was in studios that were, I knew the production values were phenomenal. Because you'd walk in and that first dinner scene, you really felt like you were on the Titanic. I mean, you looked around everywhere you looked. It was like perfection. So the production values was pretty obvious it was going to be, but in terms of how the story was all going to work and how because it's weird because the ending. Everyone, they're not going to get off. The ship is going to sink. So that's always interesting to me when a film works so well, even though when you know the ending. Even Argo was like that. Everyone knew that they got out, but you were still on the edge of your seat until that plane took off, and that's kind of what I think is why it makes the great directors.
How did you get in Argo? You had a small part in the town, right? An uncredited part in the town. Is that do you have a relationship with Affleck, and he looks to put you in stuff, kind of thing?
Well, I obviously Jennifer and I had done Alias together, and so when the town came along, I just was happy to because I'd seen Gone Baby Gone, which I thought was an amazing film. All his films I think are kind of special. And then so when he asked me to just do this little cameo in the town, there was a scene that was cut, of course, but I would have done anything because just to work with people who I admire is important to me, and so I did the town, and then when Argo came up, ironically, there was another part he was interested in me doing, and it wasn't something I was interested in doing, so I said, no, I don't. I've got other stuff going on, but then when it came to the role he did offer me, being Canadian and also sort of resembling Ken Taylor, I was, of course, wanted to do that. And so it was, I think it was, he comes to casting very methodically and doesn't do anything arbitrarily. And it wasn't a favor to me or to Jennifer. It was just, he thought, oh, this would make sense. And I agreed with him.
He's one of the few people that I think is still committed to making, at least for his own films, sort of taut adult thrillers and dramas, which we see very few of in Hollywood these days. Do you feel like as a kind of character actor who's taking parts in lots of different things, you get to have more experience or get to do even more of those than maybe someone like Ben as a leading man can?
Definitely. I think, the greatest gift I've had in my career is that I've never become that famous that I would be typed in a role that people would say, well, I can't see him in that part. It's because and I've also made a point of that in my life of in the theater too. Starting out in the theater, I mean, I did musicals, and then I would not do them because I didn't want to be typed as a musical theater person. And my first big film, was Godspell, and I sang and played Jesus. I was, and so some would say a career killer, but I fortunately it worked out. And
was that your thought? You're like, where do I go from here? I'm Jesus. Right
kind
now.
of, yeah. And ironically, television came late for me too. I mean, Alias was J.J. Abrams' a vision that he had of me, which I was so grateful for because that changed my life. Because I had done years ago, I played Liberace on a TV movie for CBS that was very successful, but I didn't work in television for 2 years because people thought that's all I could do. Because it was convincing, which is of course what you try to do as an actor. But then some people just don't have they can't see beyond that. So I feel like I've been very lucky that I've been able to defy that somewhat.
You played Liberace. Who played it better, you or Douglas?
I'm going to say it was different. We were doing the CBS version, they were doing the HBO version, so it's a very different. There was a lot of sex in that one, and there wasn't none in mine.
This is kind of an obvious sequitur, but you were also in Milk, and you played the mayor in Milk, and I think as you as a character actor, as we said, you get to do a lot of projects, and then all of a sudden you do something like that. 2008, this movie about Harvey Milk. I look back on that movie, and I don't think it gets enough credit as really moving the needle for the LGBT community. It was a massive project. It was nominated for Oscars. You had huge support for this film, and then within a couple of years, and it's obviously not only because of the movie Milk that these things happened, but it definitely portrayed the LGBT community and in pop culture in a way that we hadn't really seen, at least that heavily.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was conscious of that when we were making it, and conscious of the fact that Sean Penn, arguably one of the greatest actors in film, was willing to play that role. Because that's not for a straight guy to play that character. I mean, although he's an actor, so that's not shouldn't be a consideration, but it often, certainly in the old days, was a big consideration.
I think it's often a larger consideration the other way around, unfortunately. Where it's like lots of actors are afraid to come out because they're afraid that people won't accept them as straight performances.
Oh yeah, I mean, I inadvertently came out years ago and didn't realize that I'd never been in, So and then suddenly I was out, and everybody said, and there was like a big kerfuffle, and I said, "What's the deal?" It was. I'm not kidding. It was really bizarre. But and my partner at the time was on a chairlift in Aspen, and suddenly he looked down at his phone. He had like 75 texts, and he had a panic attack. He didn't know what had happened. He thought someone had died, or Anyway, so it was. It's all. I mean, thank God the world has changed somewhat. Although, as we know from recent events, some things never change. And I think that there will always be people who will hate and who will want to kill people, and that's just the world we've created and the world we live in. And so anything you can do, any acts you can do to in your own life to be not to be generous and kind and accepting changes the world, I believe.
Absolutely. Did you, when you inadvertently came out, did you worry about casting or roles or typecast or anything like that?
No, because first of all, I don't care. And secondly, I'm too old. I'm too old. It's like then don't hire me. I don't really care. Really, if that's your deal.
Did you experience anything like that coming up as an actor?
I was told once by a very prominent agent that I would have to not, that I would serve me better. This is like before you were all born, but that it would serve me as an actor to not tell anybody that I was gay, and I said, well, I don't talk about it. It's not like and I don't.
You don't walk on the set like.
No, I don't say hello. I'm gay. I mean, I just was sort of like, I didn't get it. I didn't get that whole thing. And then, yes, I did witness it. And I do think that I was, when I could start naming names, but I'm not going to. But in the old days, I was very close with a lot of actors who were up and coming, who became famous, who were straight. And I was in that group, and I didn't, which was, I'm not going to say it's because, but people knew I was gay who knew me, and so yes, I do think it had an effect, and I think it was only now that now that I became older and a character actor, of course it doesn't have any bearing anymore. So, or at least it doesn't seem to.
Is the word character actor appropriate? I consider it like a compliment. Do you consider it a compliment to a degree?
First of all, I don't know I don't know. I thought every actor was a character actor because
I would agree with that.
They're playing a character. I mean, this isn't. If you're not, then who are you playing, yourself? Yeah. And some would say, yes, every movie I've seen that person, and they're exactly the same. But no, I think I think there is no differentiation. Really. Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where each time I said it to you, my brain was like, oh, character.
It's here's the word I don't like: veteran. Ooh. Veteran actor.
Legend.
They say legend's fine. It's fine. But veteran actor, it's like, really? How old is that? How old do you have to be a veteran actor? But yes, I am, is the point. I am. So I'm okay with all that now.
What did you think of Sam Jackson when you saw him as the president in Big Game?
I think Sam Jackson is incomparable. I think there's no one like him, and I love everything he does. And ironically, many, many years ago, we were in a Shakespeare study group together, he and his wife. And
how long ago?
It was like, 25 years ago, maybe. Wow. 30 years ago. It was a long time. I'm bad with time. I have no concept of time, but it was a long time ago. And someone just sent me, there's an actual, what they call videotape of that someone sent to my house. I've never watched it because I don't want to watch myself, but they are on that.
You don't want to watch you and young Samuel L. Jackson do Shakespeare? Send that to me.
I'll send it to you.
Watch it.
If I can find it, because I put it in a box somewhere, I actually will send it to you.
Do you? I mean,
you don't have a VHS.
I have a VHS.
Oh.
And I have tapes.
A geek.
Yeah, I have the weirdest movies on VHS.
We're not going to talk about that.
No, I know. I realized what that sounded like as soon as I said that. We have some time for questions. Let's see who we have. Brad, what's up, man?
This question is from Periscope, and they want to know, Victor, if you weren't an actor, what would you be?
I think I would be. The only thing I could ever think of was teaching, because I love people who want to learn things, and I thought I would, if I really was smart enough, I could be a good teacher, but I'm not really, because I don't know anything. I just have approximated everything I've ever done. I mean, I'm not kidding. I can't remember like facts or dates, or I would not be a good. I would have to. I could teach acting, maybe. Maybe I could be an acting teacher.
You have like the kind of brain that's like, unless you're using it regularly, you kind of pick it up and then put it down.
Kind of, yeah. I've been sort of studying the brain, reading a little bit about how the brain works, and really fascinated by how we can change our lives by the way we think, and our bodies the way we think. And so I'm kind of in a phase now where I'm observing how I think, and I'm trying to expand that. Absolutely. I don't remember your name, Ricky. Okay. Isn't it?
Yeah, that is my name. That was really good.
Wow. It's good.
Next question.
Hi, Victor.
Hi.
Big fan of Alias.
Thank you.
My question is, as an actor, how did you find the balance between doing theater and film and television, or did you just have to, like, when you were doing television, it's like, okay, I can't do any of the rest, and when you were doing theater, I can't do. I guess that's my question is, Were you able to find a balance, and how did you find a balance?
Well, interestingly enough, I didn't really have to because I was ensconced in the theater for so many years. I think I did a movie, Light Sleeper. Did you know that movie?
Is that the Paul Schrader
yeah,
film?
it's actually an interesting film.
It's a very interesting film.
Yeah, he was the first director that really gave me a shot at doing something on film that I thought meaningful. But
Surprisingly sweet man, because
so sweet.
Because
and his
you
wife
see
is an old friend of mine, Mary Beth Hurt.
Yeah.
Who's one of the greatest actresses. I'll be right back to you. But this is, I mean, I just was with her and I just was thinking about Paul Schrader, and yeah, he's the fascinating guy.
I interviewed him once, and then I bumped into him on the street, and I just said hi, which I'm always very embarrassed to do. I don't want to bother anybody, but I just like Paul Schrader's movies so much. And he immediately looked at me and went, "Ricky on TV 24/7." And I was like, I don't know where you got that from or why you remember my name, but it's very sweet that because you must have had to do like 50 interviews that day.
Yeah.
And it was just so nice that
he's well, you're unforgettable, Ricky, but Paul Schrader is a really good guy. But anyway, the point is, I was doing only theater, and I couldn't really get it. Nobody was interested in me doing television. I would do it sporadically, and then at a certain point, it really wasn't until Alias that my life changed, and I moved to LA for a short time, and then I did like 3 TV shows in a row, but I remember I was doing Macbeth at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego because I was very serious about theater, and that's when I got Titanic, and so suddenly it was like I was going back and forth, and then it became a juggling act. But if I read a play right now that I fell in love with, I would do everything I could to figure out a way to do it, and it's going to be tricky now because I'm doing this new show in Vancouver for this television show, Legends of Tomorrow, it's called, and I'm going to be there working. But I even said to someone the other day who wants to work with me in the theater, I said, if you come up with something that I really feel passionately about, I'll try to figure out a way on a hiatus to do it, because I miss the theater, and I think it's not too good to stay away as long as I have. So I'm just still balancing it.
Do you have any more questions?
We have time for one more question.
Right here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good too. Thank you.
How are you? Sorry.
He's not getting enough attention today.
You guys here are great, so.
That's too much. Now I'm uncomfortable.
As an actor, do you feel like it's important, or how often do you go back to studying, and where do you study, and what muscles do you think are the difference between acting and film and TV and theater? What do you think is the big difference, and what media do you like more? Wow,
that's a lot. But I'm gonna try to answer it as best I can. I've never studied acting. I don't advocate that. It's just the way it was for me. Because when I was growing up, there was no school. I grew up in Ontario, Canada. There was no school nobody. I did like little amateur theater, and I learned to act by acting, which I believe is the only way to learn. However, I think there are great teachers in the world, and if you have the opportunity to work with someone that you respond to, it's there are many books. I mean, Uta Hagen, who is long gone, but she was she taught me a lot about acting. Her book was very helpful, and I know a lot still is to a lot of people. So I think I think you should do everything you can to learn all you can about acting. And some people just feel like, well, I don't want to. I just want to be a television actor, or a film actor. And often you can see that's really they're limited in that way. But I think I personally feel it all comes from the same energy and the same objective, which is to be truthful. So if the camera's here, you obviously have to make that adjustment. But if you're on a stage, you obviously have to fill that theater without pushing, without overacting, without. So it's a technical craft that you have to learn. And I feel I learned acting really by watching the greatest actors and saying, what are they doing? How are they doing that? What is that? That's how I learned to act, by watching.
Would you say that that technical craft, that the aspects that are of a technician, it's getting used to the technicalities, getting used to doing it so much that when I get out here and I see that I have to project a certain way or do something a certain way, I can still be natural and I can still be at ease and I can sort of still do this thing and focus in a way that I can get inside this character, know that I have to do this, but that almost becomes secondary because I'm so used to knowing how to do that, and especially with the camera here as well.
Without question. I mean, like everything, technique has to be thrown out or forgotten about when you're actually doing it. It's a brain game as well. Back to the brain. You have to be able to compartmentalize, because when you're doing a film and you've got 25 crew members and they're all like there, and you're doing an intimate love scene or just an intimate scene with somebody, you have to be able to tune them out completely. And so there is, listen, when you're watching somebody when you're moved by somebody, it's because they've made you believe. You have to make them believe that what's happening to you is real. And it's sort of simplistic, but it's actually the bottom line for acting, I think.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks so much, Victor.
Thank you, Ricky.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Pleasure.